Hello, this is Science and Society, conversations about that. Our guest today is Professor James Lowenthal. He's the Mary Elizabeth Moses Professor at Smith College. And of course, I shared an office with him. When I started my postdoc at Smith, my office was right next to Professor Lowenthal's. And it's a great thing to connect with you again, James, and Smith College as well. And I should mention that just last week I was at Smith College to attend a class on the politics of outer space. I have a conversation with the students over there, taught by Professor Bozina Welburn, and the student said, give us a shout out for that on the podcast. So here is the shout out. By the way, that was a lot of fun to have a conversation about that. We'll talk about it at another time with Professor Bozina as well. But right now, we are having a conversation about a topic that Professor Lowenthal, you feel absolutely passionate about. I've known you for over 25 years, and I know that you have been pretty passionate about this, and that is about dark skies. And this week happens to be, this is the start of International Dark Sky Week. So, first of all, James, if I can say, welcome to Kainaat Studios.
Thank you so much, Salman. My old friend, it's great to be here with you today.
Right. So let me start with something. I mean, we are going to talk about dark skies, but I thought I'll ask you. You have mentioned this at other places as well about the Milky Way, the importance for people to see Milky Way in the night sky. I mean, it's a wonderful treasure, and most people, a lot of people, especially with who live in cities, and a lot of the viewers are, a lot of people said they've never seen the Milky Way in the night sky. So let me ask you a question. Um, there are things that I have never seen a giraffe, for example, in the wild, or some other thing. Uh, ca- can you tell me why Milky Way is important? Why is it different? Why should people see that?
The Milky Way is our home. It's the galaxy we live in, and not seeing it, not being able to see it, even when it's right in front of you, is like going to the beach and not being able to see the ocean, or looking at a rainbow and not being able to see it, or going to a forest and not being able to see trees. It's wrong. It's a profound loss. The Milky Way is woven into the fabric of every civilization. It's it plays a crucial role in every culture's cosmology and religion and connection to ancestors and to the future. Our stories are literally in the sky, and the Milky Way is a big part of that. For example, near where I am here in Western Massachusetts, the Seneca Native people lived for centuries talking about the Milky Way as a pathway to the next life. And many, many cultures talked about the Milky Way the same way. The stars are the stepping stones, and the Milky Way is the pathway to the next life. Your soul is going to move along that Milky Way. And they would look up at it, and they would talk about it, and they would connect with their ancestors in this deeply meaningful way that we have cut ourselves off from with light pollution.
But do you think so? I mean, if you have never encountered Milky Way, this loss, how do you convey that? I mean, so you mentioned sort of like these local traditions and other things. For that, people have to be part of. I mean, in some sense. I mean, I'm just wondering for people living in New York City. I know you grew up in New York City. I grew up in Karachi, where seeing a few stars. I mean, I actually love the sky because, I mean, in Karachi, I was close to the ocean. And so towards the ocean side, you could see 3 or 4 stars. And I loved those because that's the only stars you could see. And when I went for my graduate work in New Mexico, where you could see the spectacular sky, and I was almost like, whoa, it is there. But I still had a little bit sentimentality attached to those two or three bright stars. So I'm just curious, how do you, again, this is something that you do science communication, you talk about dark skies. How do you convey the importance of people who have never seen it? Right. I mean, like, especially growing up in a city.
So, Salman, I think the way you just described it, like there you were living in Karachi, this terribly light polluted city. You could see only a few stars, but you did it. You looked up, you made that connection. Everybody can do that. Everybody, wherever you are, you can look up at night. And even that we have largely forgotten how to do. And there is joy and awe and wonder in the sky right over your head every clear night. And connect to it, build that, make that a habit. Make it a habit to poke your head out the door before you go to bed at night to check on the sky and see what's happening. And you might see something new. You might see some old friends. Either way, it's beautiful, it's delightful, it's thrilling. And if you're lucky, you can get outside of the city and go to a place that has dark skies. And that is what International Dark Sky Week is all about. It's a celebration of dark skies. It's an invitation to go seek out dark skies. While the great majority of the population of the world now lives under light polluted skies, most people can get to dark skies within a day's trip and see the Milky Way. Here in New England, we could travel to the coast, to Cape Cod, or up north to Maine, or to the northwest to the Adirondacks, or even just central Vermont, and see beautiful, beautiful Milky Way. And it's worth it. It's thrilling. We need more of that in our lives, and everybody wants to see the stars. Everybody enjoys seeing the Milky Way. Nobody ever says, "Oh, that was boring, and I don't want to do that again." It never happens. I've never heard that. I've heard, I ask my students, how many of you have never seen the Milky Way? 50% of the students raise their hands. I say, okay, that's not okay. We got to fix that. And so we rent a school bus and we drive, 30 miles outside of our city of Northampton, and we can see the Milky Way. And it's the best part of the semester for most of the students.
And you don't need a telescope or anything. You can just look up in the sky. I mean, people also think sort of like, do I need an equipment? And well, yeah, the eyes are the only thing that you need.
The eyes are the only thing that you need. We
So,
have this.
so tell,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was going to say we
ahead.
have this incredible good fortune to live on a planet that has day and night, and that has clear skies at least some of the time, and that lets us see the stars. It did not have to be that way. There are lots of planets out there. Most stars have at least two planets. And many of those planets, even if they have a rocky surface that you could stand on, have clouds all over them all the time.
Yeah.
And we don't have that. We have clear skies in most places, at least some of the time, to let us see the night sky and the stars in the Milky Way.
I think there was a book, Nightfall, if I remember correctly, a science fiction book where you had a planet with multiple stars, I think two stars in there, and they never had night sky. And so they didn't have astronomers that did sort of like, telescopic work and things like that. So anyway, so yeah, so that I think it's an interesting point. So tell us a little bit about the International Dark Sky Association. So they are the ones who are working on this thing. So what do they do and what are they trying to achieve?
Dark Sky International is the go-to nonprofit organization based in Tucson, Arizona, that is now pushing 50 years old. And they coordinate the efforts of thousands and thousands of advocates around the world who are committed to bringing back natural darkness at night and bringing back the stars in the Milky Way, protecting human health, protecting wildlife, all of which are profoundly negatively affected by light pollution. And International Dark Sky Week is one of those efforts. It's a campaign focused on the week in April that is in the dark of the moon. There's no point in going out to try to see the Milky Way when it's full moon because the sky is too bright. But in the dark of the moon, that's when you really want to try to see the faint stuff. And all around the world, there are hundreds and hundreds of communities, states, cities, whole nations that recognize International Dark Sky Week as a week to focus on these issues. And here in my small town of Northampton, I'm very proud that our mayor has issued a proclamation acknowledging Dark Sky Week. Last year, Governor Healy in the state of Massachusetts, where I live, did the same thing. It's a proclamation that says we recognize that light pollution is causing this problem and this problem and this problem to human health and wildlife and the stars. And we recognize the importance of bringing back the night sky for our souls, for our pleasure, for our economy, for astrotourism to attract people to the dark places, for supporting pollinating insects that about half of which work at night and are negatively affected by light pollution. And we depend on them for our food supply. So all of that goes into these proclamations, and then it goes to the press, and the press picks them up, and so people talk about it, and people learn about this important issue. So that's the point of Dark Sky Week, and we have a lovely celebration planned for right here in Northampton.
Do they? I mean, I'm just curious that for the town, Northampton, or for the state, do they do anything? Sort of like, meaning to say, okay, well, we are going to reduce at least for this 1 week, we are going to turn off X number of floodlights or something like that. Do they do anything like that, or is it more about an awareness and hope that they turn down the lights?
It depends on the particular city, town, state, and who's doing what and who's making the decisions. This is a big. It's the dark sky movement is big. As I said, there are many thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of people working on this around the world, and light is a sufficiently distributed problem. Light pollution, that there's no one silver bullet. Light pollution, which we could define loosely as light that is excessive, that's on all night long, even when nobody's there, that's going in the wrong direction, it's not going down, it's going out or up into the sky. It shows up in lots of ways. It shows up as an artificially bright sky. It shows up as light shining in your windows. It shows up as glare that impedes your ability to see clearly on the streets or the highways or the sidewalks. So it's complicated because there are lots of sources of light, and Dark Sky Week could focus on one aspect of that, like city lighting, street lights, or parking lots, or hey, let's get office buildings to turn their lights off, or let's get people to turn their porch lights off. One of those alone will make a difference, but it won't solve the problem. So really what we're talking about is culture change, and it happens slowly. It happens over years, and just committing to it for a week is not going to fix the problem. But as you said, it's about raising awareness. It's about raising consciousness. And once a city government or a state government issues that proclamation, they've started a thought process, and they've had to put on paper light pollution is a problem. And even if they don't make any tangible changes that week, it's still a win because they're thinking about it and it's in the public sphere. And that's how the culture change happens. And in cities and towns where they've really been able to tackle the light pollution problem, that's how they did it. It was not a very quick overnight process. It happened slowly through efforts like this.
And it was also, I mean, it's a global movement, so it's not. I mean, as you've mentioned before, also, but again, and people can just get involved. I mean, this is one of those things, just like Milky Way is for everyone, in the same way, dark sky is also for everyone. So people actually can get involved. I'm curious about. So I did my graduate work in New Mexico, and that is a dark sky state, in some sense, that they have to think about it. And this is something that you also mentioned, that once you become aware of it, then if you are putting some lights or whatever you are doing, at least in the back of your head, you go like, okay, I'm aware of this. Should I do that or not? And you may still go ahead and do that, but at least it just triggers that sort of like, a little bit of whatever, the conscience or, or just some awareness of it that comes in. There has been a movement within the dark skies that do you declare some areas as dark sky areas, or because people value it, there is and value gets added to it, so then you can declare something and then people can actually appreciate it and then can expand it. Can you say a little bit more about some of the dark sky certified places or something like that that have been identified?
Yes, there are a couple of different systems in the world. The I would say the primary one is again from Dark Sky International, that organization in Tucson. They have identified six different kinds, six categories of dark sky places: dark sky reserves, dark sky parks, and urban night sky places, dark sky communities, and there are now over 200 of them identified, not just identified, sorry, certified around the world. A park or a place or a community can apply for this certification from Dark Sky International. And the application is rigorous, and it requires documentation. It requires evidence that that the community or the park or the reserve is doing the right thing to monitor light pollution, to reduce it, to coordinate with neighboring towns, and uh, to improve the local laws, uh, protecting the night sky. And it's phenomenally successful. Those places that take these efforts and then apply and then get certified, it puts them on the map in a way that is a game changer. For example, uh, the state of Maine recently adopted or promoted and developed and then got certified two dark sky places, and those are the Maine Woods, Katahdin Maine Woods near Mount Katahdin in north central Maine, and the nearby Appalachian Mountain Club (AMC). Oh, I'm getting the names mixed up. AMC Maine Woods. Anyway, they're both in north central Maine, and as soon as they were certified, people started coming. People started coming because they wanted to see the dark skies, and they looked it up online, like where can I find dark skies, and they find that there's a dark sky place in Maine. They go, and uh, something like three-quarters of the visitors to those places are new visitors who found out about it because of their dark sky status. So it's I think a fantastic vehicle, a mechanism for a preserving and then b advertising the specialness of dark sky places. And some people may say, well, I want every place to be a dark sky place. Okay, great, fight for it. Bring it to your place. But as long as we've got these dark sky places, we need to preserve them as well. And it's good to have some examples, some showcases of really dark skies, so that people can go there and experience it for themselves, and maybe bring that knowledge back and in their own community work to promote dark skies.
And in some sense, that is tied to something that has picked up, and that is astrotourism, because of the lack of our sort of like loss of sky, dark skies at other places. Then there are some places that become okay. Well, you go to look at the sky, which I mean, in some sense, it's sad as well, because sky should be there for everyone, but that you still have to go somewhere. But at least we have those spaces, and astrotourism and this dark sky certification. I guess those things can get intertwined, or are they intertwined?
Yes, very much so. And as you know, I'm terribly worried about climate change, and flying around the world is a bad thing to do just for fun. But uh, astrotourism is a thing, and it's a multi-billion-dollar industry now, with dozens and dozens of places around the world, from New Zealand to Italy um, to Tanzania, to
Pakistan.
Pakistan, to Utah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
they have these special places that people like to go to, and they advertise them and they develop them, and people come and they use them. And I think so. My dream, of course, is that you can step out your door wherever you live and look up and see a beautiful sky, and live in the health that comes from having a dark surrounding at night, and enjoy the wildlife that benefit from having natural darkness at night. So that's the dream. But to get there, we might need to develop astrotourism for a generation or two. And
Yeah.
it's on a big upswing, and there's been a lot of press about it. National Geographic and the New York Times and many other big media outlets have been reporting on astrotourism in just the last couple of years.
So I want to pivot a little bit in a slightly different direction, and that is, I mean, I love. I mean, I live in Amherst, so right next to Northampton, and I still sort of like, you take out garbage, or you and like, it's one of those chores, like, that you have to do, but also like, how do you make the best of it? So I always look up in the sky, and when it's not cloudy, yesterday was beautiful. You look up and you can see sky, and it's not the darkest skies, but you can actually see a reasonable number of stars where we live. Um, and yet you also see lights around you, sort of like, it depends upon the neighbors if they have their big light on or not, and things like that, those things that come in. So apart from astrotourism, there are also issues regarding at a much local level, where your very local environment, your house, for example, your neighborhood, and things like that, that are being impacted. And it's not just about astronomy. I mean, I know that you have alluded to it already. I'm just curious about a little bit about the ecosystem. You mentioned sort of like pollination and other types of things. People often think about those during daytime, or sort of like, not being impacted at night. So what should we worry about as individuals? I say, for example, we're not interested right now. Astrotourism, sure, I'm going to go next year. But today, what should I think about today around my house?
Yeah, thanks, Salman. By the way, when we talk about dark skies, that shows the sort of historical origin of fighting light pollution from the astronomer's perspective, because it's the sky we're worried about. But really, it's an environmental issue. And we might come up, dark skies is sort of the generic name for the movement, the dark skies movement. But it's really about conserving the night. It's about, we could call it the natural night conservancy or something like that. It's an environmental issue, and it affects humans deeply, and it affects all life on Earth. We evolved on a planet that spins once every 24 hours, bringing every part of the Earth into bright sunshine during the day and deep darkness at night. And it is literally in our DNA and the DNA of virtually every plant and animal to depend on that cycle of day and night. And we've disrupted it with our artificial lights at night. And you talk about stepping outside and seeing the lights of neighbors everywhere, the lights of the city. It's not just that they block the stars. In fact, that might be the least important part. And I could easily imagine that it's going to turn out the most important part of light pollution is the effect on human health, or the effect on natural wildlife. So human health first. Our eyes, which provide us with vision, also have another function. And this was discovered just a few years ago, got the Nobel Prize. There's a special kind of cell in the retina, in the back of the eyeball, whose sole purpose it is to look for the amount of blue light in the environment. When the sun goes down, the blue light drops dramatically. Your eye picks that up and sends a signal to the brain, start producing melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone that floods your body and triggers a whole cascade of other hormonal responses. That it's basically resetting your 24-hour body clock, your circadian rhythm. Everybody knows that we have a 24-hour cycle, even if we don't think about it. Like, the vast majority of people go to sleep at night. They go to bed, they sleep, they wake up in the morning. That is set by day and night, and by the light and dark cycle. But people may not realize it's in our DNA. It's literally in every cell, in the nucleus of every cell in your body. There are 24-hour clocks that are looking to be reset every day by melatonin and the associated triggers. Most of it set by the day-night cycle. So what happens when we don't get that trigger? If we're inside most of the day and we're not in that bright sunshine during the day, and then at night we're inside again, now flooded with light, but not as bright as the daylight, just much brighter than it should be at night, your eye never picks up that signal. So you don't start producing melatonin. Most of us in the modern world now live in a constant state of mild to severe depression of melatonin or suppression of melatonin. Okay, so what? So it messes with your body clock a little bit. Oh no, it turns out it's actually very serious. Melatonin is a powerful tumor suppressant. So in the presence of artificial light at night, including just in your neighborhood, Salman, and everybody else's, if it's coming in your windows, including coming from our screens, the lights in the house, but including when you're just walking around outside under street lights, you are not producing melatonin and you are at risk of elevated rates of hormonal cancers. And sure enough, big studies like the Harvard Nurses Study, which studied 100,000 nurses over decades. So big numbers, it's a great epidemiological study, found a very significant increase in the rate of breast cancer among women who lived in light polluted areas compared to women who lived in dark areas. And then it was reproduced in Spain. And then it was reproduced in South Korea. And there have now been dozens of studies establishing this link between living in light polluted areas and elevated rates of hormonal cancers like breast cancer, prostate cancer, as well as diabetes and obesity and mood disorders.
That is really interesting. I actually didn't know about this very specific connection to cancer. I mean, I was thinking, like at observatories, for example, we know. I mean, as astronomers, we go out and sort of like observe at night, and so our schedules get flipped, and the people who work there, there are always health concerns regarding that they should not just stay up at night all the time, and so they are given breaks, sort of like that to equalize that, because otherwise health it could actually significantly impact the health. But I didn't know sort of like that there are very explicit connections to that, and so I'm assuming that this is something that in big cities where you just I mean, Times Square, for example, in New York City. I mean, over there you're walking. I mean, I was in Shanghai a couple of months ago, and it was just like daytime at night. I mean, it's not even sort of. I mean, if you live around there, around downtown areas, I mean, I think that's a very significant thing. So, I mean, people should think about like big, sort of like dark barriers for nighttime. I mean, that's what we can do. I guess they artificially darken the sky.
That's correct. If you live in a big light polluted city, you should really get blackout shades and maybe sleep with a mask, an eye mask, because that's better for your health. Of course, the animals can't do that.
Right. So I was going to ask, sort of like because you talked about pollination before and other types of things. So what about animals? I mean, they don't have the eye patches yet.
And they don't want them. So we talk about dark skies and not shining the light up into the sky and shine the light down only. The animals don't want it there either. And practically every species of animal that's been studied has been shown to suffer from light pollution. There are a few animals that take advantage of it. It provides some opportunities in some cases. For example, bright lights attract insects, and if you're an animal that likes to then go pick off the insects, well, maybe you'll get some more food that way. But by and large, it upsets the ecosystems. And for example, those insects that are attracted to the lights and they fly around and around and around until they drop dead from exhaustion. Okay, we've just lost all those insects. Half the insects that you see buzzing around a bright street lamp are going to die by the end of that night. And you might say, well, that's good. I don't like insects. But we depend on those insects. We totally depend on them. They are part of the ecosystem. They're feeding birds. So if you like birds, then we should care about the insects. If you like food, we should care about the insects, because our food is mostly grown depending on pollinators. And about half of pollination happens at night. And pollinating insects are devastated by light pollution. There was a study in Switzerland that found in the presence of light pollution, the number of visits to pollinating flowers by insects at night dropped by 62%. So darkness, the insects came. Light polluted, the insects just didn't come. And our food supply depends on that. there are even more direct effects. If you shine light on crops, it affects uh, the the growing cycles of the crops themselves. And uh, for example, soybeans uh, that have bright streetlights over them, they stay green. The leaves stay green longer than they're supposed to, which actually prevents the beans from growing. So that's a direct effect on the crop that curing light pollution could easily fix. And cutting back, turning the lights off when you don't need them. Most lights don't have to be on all night long when nobody's there. So put them on timers, put them on dimmers. Every step like that makes a difference. And a lot of these are matters of degree. Like the degree to which pollinators or other insects are affected is a matter of degree. If you dim the lights down, if you turn them off when you don't need them, the insects start to come back.
And I guess the key reason for these things is because, I mean, it's not that the insects are not very smart and they go like, hey, I'll just keep on going around the light bulb, but rather they get confused because they think that that is the source of the light, but the evolution brings them that this must be the sun, or that's the direction of the sun. And same thing with plants, I guess, as well, like, that they are looking for, from evolutionary perspective, they've been designed from the, like, okay, well, there's going to be a light and that will be the sun, and so this is the direction I'm going to go, or this is how I'm going. But the local light source confuses them, or city lights. I mean, that's where the turtles and others come in, that they actually get confused in the direction.
Yeah, it depends on the species, and there's a lot that's not known about this. There's a whole field of chronobiology, which is the time, the circadian rhythms, the day-night rhythms of all life, and the sensitivity to light. It There's a lot that's not known. But as you just mentioned, moths, for example, why do they circle around the flame and circle around the light? It was recently determined that at least some species of moths are trying to keep the moon at their back. And so when they see when they see the moon here, they try and keep it at their back. But that means that they have to fly in circles to keep it at their back. So it's not even that they're attracted to the light; it's just they're trying to orient by it, and it doesn't work. But it varies tremendously. For example, birds. Here we are in mid-April. It's the beginning of bird migration season here in North America, and they are coming up from South America, from the Caribbean, by the millions, every day. But it's not actually day, it's actually at night. 80% of birds in North America are migratory, and 80% of those birds migrate at night. They migrate at night using the stars to navigate, and other mechanisms, but including using the stars. They fly all night. They come down during the day to forage, to rest, and then they take to the wing again at night. So over my head last night, over your head last night, Salman, probably there were hundreds of thousands of birds flying in the dark, unseen, quietly, but in this mass migration, so large that it gets picked up by weather radar as huge. They look like clouds, and there are whole big data projects, including based here at UMass Amherst, to use radar data to study bird migrations. And they get seriously disoriented by light pollution. They're flying over big cities, and as you said, they get confused. They get attracted to it. Or the sky is so bright they can't see the stars. We don't necessarily know the details of how it happens, but we do know that 100 million to a billion birds die every year due to light pollution. You can pick them up on the sidewalk dead in major cities, and there are programs called Lights Out. There's a Lights Out Philadelphia, a Lights Out Boston, a Lights Out Chicago. There's a program called FLAP, Fatal Light Pollution Awareness Program, focused just on the migrating birds and trying to convince owners of great big tall office buildings, please turn your lights off, your office lights off at night when nobody's in them. And it's been shown that there's a dramatic drop in the number of dead birds resulting, the number of bird collisions. So it's not that hard to do. It just takes the awareness and a little bit of will to do it.
And that goes back to the same thing, sort of like, that the actions, they don't seem like, okay, well, you need to get the whole city to be blacked out, but rather even small actions can actually have an impact. So we are getting close to the end. Let's So tell us a little bit about what can individuals do. What, I mean, you have mentioned sort of like about light angles and things like that, but more concretely, you go like, okay, well, here are 3 steps or 5 steps or whatever, like, that people individually can say, okay, well, can I'll do that, or like, or at least have some suggestions regarding that.
Yep, sure. First, I would say start with your own lights, and if you have any control over the lights at the place you live, make sure that they're first off when they're not needed. Uh, Put a motion sensor on them if you can, so that they trigger only when somebody's there. Uh, Second, make sure that they are shining down. Third, make sure that they are not brighter than they need to be. And fourth, make sure they use warm colors that looks sort of amberish, not a bright, harsh bluish white. Again, because our eyes are looking for that blue light to drop at night. We need that. So does the rest of the world, the rest of the natural world. So those are some simple rules. That's just on your own property. Then pick one simple project in your own town. And I would say the best project to start with is to try to convince your city or your town or your school or your university to adopt the 5 principles of responsible outdoor light at night. The 5 principles. And those are basically what we just said. Shine the light down, not too bright, turn it off when it's not necessary, not too blue, amber colors are better, and every light should have a clear purpose. You don't just stick a light on a building for no reason. It should be used for entryways, for walkways. It should be used to help you see. Those 5 principles, it's easy to do, and it gets the conversation going, and it starts the education process. The 5 principles don't have any numbers in them. There's no commitment of money. It's just the principles. It's just making sure that we agree on the values. And the values are like, as we say in America, motherhood and apple pie. Who would disagree? Everybody loves both of those things. And the 5 principles, I think, are a great way to start those conversations.
If somebody says, and this is something that, I mean, I think there are real concerns regarding that as well, about safety. So, like, that, okay, well, if it's dark, that you could be in an area, there could be concerns about safety. It cannot all be dark. So, how do we balance out the sort of like, because that, I mean, that's in some sense, that's the again, from evolution perspective, okay, so we have an inherent fear of the dark as well, so there is that element that combines in, and and sometimes those fears are justified as well. So the way we respond is, okay, here are these huge lights that we put in so that I'm not afraid, I'm not scared of stepping out. And so how do you suggest balancing out sort of like, safety issues with lighting?
Salman, when you say that safety might be an issue, I would say that's the understatement of the year. Yeah, of course. I mean, safety. You're absolutely right. It's fear of crime, fear of intruders, fear of other people that drives light pollution. There's no question, and I agree with you. It's probably in our DNA. It's probably inherent, and we'll never get away from it. We'll always have fear of the dark. The question is, what do we do with it? And first of all, when we talk about dark skies, remember it's dark skies. We're not talking about dark ground. We Everybody recognizes big cities are always going to have some light, and it's for safety. It's so that at the very least, so you can see where you're walking without tripping. And there are stories about the old days in London when people would run right into lampposts and be injured or killed because it was so dark. So that's not an issue anymore. So let's assume wherever you live in a big city, you're going to have some light. Does having 10 times more light than you need help you? Does it make it 10 times safer? And the answer is no, it does not. So we overlight everything, and we're adding more, and it actually doesn't help anything. Above a certain low threshold, adding more light doesn't improve safety at all. So let's stop doing it. It's a waste of money, and it's actually making it worse because it's ruining our health and the environment. So a really important part of the conversation has to be understanding that more light doesn't make us safer. In fact, it's often the opposite. We all know what it's like to be walking or driving or biking along a city street and have a bright light shine in the eyes, and you can't see, you're blinded by it. We all know how to use a flashlight, right? You use a flashlight by pointing it at the ground where you're walking. You don't shine it in your own eyes. And yet you go outside and you have flashlights everywhere poking you in the eyes. They come from street lights, from porch lights, from every light that's not properly shielded. That's making it harder to see, not easier to see. So if we're really concerned about safety, there's some very simple ways to improve lighting that are actually, it's counterintuitive, but oftentimes much less light is more. It is more visibility, is more safety. Our eyes, our human eyes, are incredibly sensitive, beautiful instruments if we just give them a chance to work properly. For example, in the old days, the dark of the moon was so dark that people might not travel at night then, but the full moon is plenty bright and people would plan their travel around the full moon. Well, a typical street light is about 100 times brighter than the full moon. It casts light on the ground 100 times brighter. Do we need that? Wouldn't 5 times brighter than full moon be okay? 10 times? Does it have to be 100 times? There's just no benefit in it. So I think that's part of the conversation, that more light is not better, that we don't need more light, we need better light.
And as you mentioned, and also warmer lights, so warmer colors, rather than the bluish tinge to that. Because again, so it's not about not having lights out there all the time, but rather when you are making a decision, just think about it for a second. And I guess looping it back to the dark sky week, it's this awareness that it's not, I mean, when you are making a decision, just be aware of what you are doing. You may still put a light out, but you may think about, hey, is it pointing down or not? Is it warmer colors or not? And of course, how bright it is. And do I really need to have it on all the time? I think those are the type of questions that come in, which doesn't require much. And in some sense, that helps both the environment, in your own health, and also hopefully the sky as well.
One of the great things in my life these last couple of years is a trail camera that I bought online and I put up in our backyard. And every night there are animals coming through there that I didn't even know were there. We live in this city of 30,000. I can look out my front and see dozens of houses, and I can walk to downtown and walk to shopping less than 15 minutes away. But in my backyard at night, there are coyotes and weasels and raccoons and opossum and foxes and rabbits, and it's just a zoo back there that I didn't even know about until I put up that trail camera. It makes me so happy to know that those animals are back there. And of course, they need our protection. They need our help, and they need dark nights to thrive. So that's one of the things I think about when I turn my lights off outside at night, and when I ask my neighbors to do the same thing. So I actually have, I've spent probably thousands of dollars on light bulbs that are not too bright, that are, that are properly shielded, that face down only, that are warm color. We measure the color on the scale of thousands of degrees Kelvin. Like 4,000 is too blue, 3,000, that's borderline. 2,200 is a good temperature, is a good color for outside. The higher the number, the bluer the light. I've given away light bulbs to my neighbors. Please, would you just try this? And it makes a huge difference. Our street actually looks just beautiful at night, and you can walk up and down the street and see the stars, and maybe see catch a glimpse of a fox crossing the street. It's a thrill.
Two questions. This trail camera, how do you, so do you have to sort of rewind, sort of how do you find out, or do you have to just see the animals live? You have to catch them in or in the morning you go back.
Yeah. The camera has a motion sensor, and when it detects an animal, it starts recording a video for 30 seconds.
Okay.
I pick it up, once a month or once every 2 months. I just go and collect the data and put it on the computer, and then I review hundreds of clips. Most of them are, squirrels or chipmunks. That's fine. but occasionally a bear comes through, or I'm hoping for the bobcat, the neighborhood bobcat.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so I need that as well. Second thing is that even on Smith campus, I think were you able to do sort of like reduce lighting on the campus at Smith College?
Yes, actually, Smith College, I'm very happy to say, is one of the best campuses in probably Massachusetts, probably the country, in terms of protecting natural darkness at night. They long ago replaced their very poorly designed lights that were shining light up into the sky with lights that are an inverted dome that's opaque. And the light bulb is inside it, so the light just comes down. And that's their campus standard for walkways. They've also officially signed they've officially endorsed the 5 principles. And the college is under constant pressure to add more lights. And right now they've just done a big safety audit. And guess what? The outside auditors said, oh, yeah, you might consider more lights. So there's always this pressure, and this misguided belief that more light equals more safety. But Smith has been able to resist that. And we've grown here a culture of appreciation that I think will last. And as a result, we can step outside of any building and enjoy some relative natural darkness at night. And we have a new program nationwide called Campus Shine. And if you go to campusshine.org, you'll see a handbook of how to do this on your own campus. Here are the best practices that we've learned at Truman State University in Missouri, and at University of Alabama in Birmingham, and other campuses all around the country. We've collected all that information. Here's how to do it. And if anybody is at a campus, it doesn't have to be in the United States. Anybody around the world, if you're at a campus that has light pollution that you want to fix, go to campusshine.org and see if there's some tips there that you can use, and give us your feedback as well.
All right. Well, great place to end. This was a pleasure talking to you. And I should mention that you also have on your website a huge list of resources. I'm going to put a link under the video in the description. And also the Dark Sky Association, I'm going to put a link to that as well. I think, to me, the key, what it looks like, it also makes you feel better that you are doing something. You are at least, there are a lot of odds against us about a lot of different things, but here is a small thing. This is, again, what can you do? What is in your hands? And this is something that you can do. Even if you switch off, just reduce your light around your house, if you can do that, at least you are making some step. And of course, then you can actually have a conversation with others and actually build it up. So this is really, it's really interesting as well, learning about the impact of light, but also knowing about the life in the dark. So, Professor Lowenthal, lovely talking to you.
Light pollution is a global problem with a local solution.
There you go. The tagline is always, that's the most important thing that comes in, because then you can remember it. No, I think absolutely you're right. And I will have you for more conversation at some point about radio interference in astronomy and other things. But I thought today we'll just stick with light pollution, because I think it's so important and something can be done about it.
Thank you so much, Salman. Such a pleasure talking with you today.
Thank you.